On the steppes of the stands in Central Asia, a goofy-looking antelope grazes around the countryside, using its odd snout to sniff the ground as it walks. But having such a problematic proboscis can be more trouble than it's worth, as a silent killer stalks these nefarious noses. But having a slinky snout is just how the Saiga antelope stays cool here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I am Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, search Cassie Michelle on YouTube.
And thank you to Brian for this week's artwork. It's a doozy because this is a funny looking animal. So to check it out, you can follow us at LD Taxonomy on Facebook or Twitter, or visit us at ldtaxonomy.com.
And speaking of funny looking, today we're talking about the Tibetan fox of antelopes. And by that I mean it looks like a child's drawing of the antelope that isn't quite right. But more on that later.
Yeah, this is if like they were drawing an antelope and sneezed at the nose part and then just went with the outline.
But like both the Tibetan fox and this particular animal, which is the Saiga antelope. Saiga? Is that what you would say?
Yeah. That's the show everybody watched last year, the Saiga King.
Oh, right. It looks like it just looks like the proportions are off.
Yeah, but Saiga antelope, that's who's gonna call it that? Researchers? Pfft. We're gonna call it here, and this one's from a special serve from Brian. The double-barreled snot gun. That one was pretty good. In fact, there's actually a shotgun called the Saiga, named after this animal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So this is very appropriate. I'm not sure if Brian knew that already, but if he's listening, now you do. We're also going to call it Bob Saiga, of course. The Saiga Genesis. Sorry. Also going to call it Snuffleupagus, because that was the first thing that came to my mind, and Jim Henson's childhood dog, or what he thinks it looked like. Seriously, there's some pictures of this thing that look like it's a character in the Dark Crystal.
Would you like to hear what science calls it?
Yeah, tell us the science.
Well, it is in the kingdom you know, love, and are in the kingdom Animalia.
Yes.
The phylum is Chordata.
Mm-hmm.
The class, Mammalia.
I'm doing a mammal this time.
You're doing tons of mammals now.
Carlos, the guy who doesn't do mammals. I'm kidding. They're cool. I like them. And
then the order is Artiodactyla, which is even-toed ungulates.
Humpback. What? Sorry. Yes, even-toed ungulates.
Yeah, the animals that have recently swallowed a guy in the news.
A humpback whale?
I don't know if it was a humpback, but it was humpback adjacent, and it wasn't technically a swallowing.
It was humpback adjacent. They don't even open their mouths wide enough to really swallow somebody.
Oh, yes, they do.
That would defeat the purpose of.
They do open their
feeding.
mouths hugely wide, but their throats are so small, so they couldn't possibly swallow something human-sized.
But they could keep something human-sized in their mouth, like Finding Nemo.
Yeah, but the problem with that is like it's plugging up all your food, the hole that you want food to go into, so he spit him out, and he survived.
That must have been the most terrifying thing ever. I gotta look
The
this
way
up.
he described it was like he was swimming, and all of a sudden he didn't know where he was.
What? So he wasn't a scuba diver or anything? He was just swimming?
Oh, I don't know. You swim when you scuba dive. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive.
I guess, but I don't know, you would use the term diving or something. I'm just picturing someone just, doing a freestyle stroke on the waves, and then suddenly they're inside a whale's mouth, and then suddenly they're fine again. That's nuts.
He could have been just swimming because don't they do that? Like they come up, they use the surface of the water to trap the like a school of fish.
Yeah, I guess. But was this thing hunting him? That's so weird.
No, I think it was an accident.
He just so happened to be near a bait ball.
He must be in a little school.
School of Hard Knocks. Wow, I would never go in the ocean
again. A big
again.
School of fish or krill, like thick with krill. Maybe you wouldn't even be able to see the man on the other side.
Yeah, especially if you had two eyes very far from your snout that were facing either direction and not forward.
I'd like to give this whale the benefit of the doubt.
Sure, yeah. Especially since he spat him back out. It was that was very mature and noble of him to do. He or she, I guess, who knows what it wasn't even, they don't even know if it was humpback.
I don't know for sure if it was a humpback because I didn't. The pictures that accompany all the articles look like, yeah, it says humpback.
Okay.
It's a humpback whale.
Crazy stuff.
Should we continue with the nomenclature?
Yeah.
The family is Bovidae.
Because it's a cow.
It's a cow. It's not quite a cow.
No.
It's cow adjacent. The subfamily is Antelopeinae, which means it's an antelope and not a cow.
Right.
The tribe is Saigini,
which is the last
a tribe of
Horcrux.
artiodactyl mammals of the Bovidae family, and the subfamily Antelopeinae. You know, all the stuff we just talked about.
Definitely not the last Horcrux.
2 species of gazelles. And this particular one is in the genus Saiga, and the species is Saiga tatarica.
Tatarica?
Yeah.
Saiga tatarica. That's what you would use to kill Sagini, the last Horcrux. Saiga tatarica means totally destroy.
Oh, a spell.
The Saigini snake thing.
Okay, would you like to do
a
quiz?
Since we're in the business of naming things.
Oh, you said no. No, you're not doing that.
You said I just said quiz. I would like to perform the quiz and not take one for once. It's time for my favorite part of the show. Wait, what were we going to call the one about the young? I don't remember.
Baby corner? But I also know the answer to this.
There was nothing to do here.
Maybe you found one that I don't know. Maybe there's more than one. Infant identification.
It was better than that.
Binomial babies.
There we go. Sure. Whatever. It's time for not critter groups, but what we are tentatively calling it, because I can't remember what we called it before, binomial babies. Which is babies with 2 names, which is most babies have at least 2 names. But no, we're going to talk about the one name for the babies of the Saiga antelope. What are they called, Joe? Are they called A, kid, B, a calf, C, a ewe, EWE, or D, a lamb?
I don't know this because they're also called a fawn, and that's what I thought.
I know. I found the answer, and I found another answer, and I switched out with fawn at the last second.
I guess I'll go with you. A ewe.
With me?
Yeah.
Yeah, with me?
Rush Hour 3 joke.
Is it?
Yeah. Except for it's a man named you. Why you?
Oh. Is that the big guy?
No.
Oh.
And there's also another man named me, M.I.
Oh, I have not seen those movies in a minute.
The first 2 were like back to back, and then the third one was much later, but it's got some funny moments.
Yeah. It's very self-aware, very meta. All right, your final answer?
Mm-hmm.
The answer was calf.
The answer is fawn.
Yeah, I knew that if you just looked at the Wikipedia page for a second, you would see the word fawn, and so I was hoping that maybe you had missed it, but I found another one, and so...
I guessed that it was fawn just because it looks like a deer more than any of those other things. It doesn't look like a cow. It doesn't look like a sheep. Or it doesn't look like a goat. I guess you could argue for goat, but it looks like a deer.
It's
to
goat
me.
sized, so kid. And a fawn is what is like C.S. Lewis's version of a satyr, so it's kind of goatish.
True.
But yeah, it's a calf. They have calves, and they're also called fawns.
Okay. Would you like to hear what it looks like? We've been dancing around that subject.
Yes, because this is what immediately made me want to go look this thing up.
It's one of those where it's like, that looks weird. There must be a cool fact about it. And there is, actually, in this case. The Saiga antelope has a stocky, deer-like body with thin legs. It doesn't look as thin and lithe as the impala or the springbok. It doesn't look like it's a natural athlete, though I'm sure it is pretty athletic.
It's kind of moose-ish.
Yeah, I guess you could, like, thick-bodied, thin-legged.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have big knobby knees like a moose.
I guess you're right.
Females are hornless, and males have horns that go straight up with a twist. And the twist is that it twists.
Is it an M. Night Shyamalan horn?
Yeah.
It's got a twist.
It doesn't just have a twist at the end, though.
Oh, okay. That's just all throughout.
It's more like
it's just subverting
a
expectations.
Ryan Johnson, where it's just twisted through the whole time.
We were on the same wavelength on that one.
They have an almost uniform tan color, except for a dark to light gradient for counter shading, of course. But then the color changes to be reddish in the summer and gray-brown in the winter.
I wonder why it needs to be counter shaded.
For eagles.
Yeah, but like, why does it need to be lighter underneath? For all of the what?
Mice.
Oh my! They said nice. I was like, did I say a meme? I'm sorry.
No, for mice.
Oh yeah, for predatory mice.
Yeah.
You don't want them to be able to see you, so your belly is white, so you blend in with the clouds, so the mice can't see you.
So it has a large head with a nose that makes it look like it drinks at the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah, right there with Satan and Weird Mosquito Man
and Star Wars races that never come again because
the costumes were too difficult to do.
The Satan race is too weird for us to include. It's too cartoony, 1970s. We never thought this would matter. Kind of design.
We didn't think this would be as much of a hit as it was, so we included Satan in the drinking room.
Satan himself.
Obi-Wan had never seen a worse hive of scum and villainy. So where else could Satan possibly be? A wretched hive. Speaking
of wretched, would you like to be destroyed by a Measure Up segment?
If your segue is that this segment is wretched, then yeah, sure, let's go. Let's do it.
My segue is that welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal's size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering. The words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. Our wellspring of Measure Up intros has finally run dry, so we don't have a new Measure Up intro this week.
Which means this fountain is not deep and wide.
No. Which means we get to hear from an animal, and Carlos has to guess what it is.
Alrighty then.
And with some further ado, as I find the YouTube video,
I can say my weekly animal story. I was at a house that had a bunch of yellow jackets living in the door frame, and I walked under it with the person who owned the house, and we didn't get stung. And then we looked around the house, and then when we left, I was the first person to leave, and I turned around, and every single yellow jacket from that nest flew directly at my eye. and the very first one stung me right to the left of my left eye.
That's the worst case scenario.
No, worst case scenario is they sting me in the actual eyeball, but they stung me in the orbital or whatever there, and it started to swell up, and I'm still like trying to talk to this person about them maybe wanting to sell their house, and I'm trying not to lose vision. I don't know how you try to not do that, but that was really, really, really painful. I don't think I've been stung by a yellow jacket before.
You should have just turned to him and say, "Hey, man, I think I deserve a good deal for this." Yeah, I think this is part of the deal. Like, this is a deduction.
Yeah, for my mental trauma for this. And there were so many yellow jackets, like nests around this house. And we walked directly underneath them the first time and nobody got stung. And then I guess me shutting the door behind me caused them to go into a rage. So I feel better now that I've put baking soda and stuff on my eye. But it was also on Saturday. So, and this is Tuesday.
Wow.
All right, let's do it.
That's not an animal encounter you want to have, but interesting animal info nonetheless.
Yes, the info and the moral is don't mess with stinging insects, particularly yellow jackets, because apparently they're like the Cape buffalo of the flying stinging insect world. They harbor grudges and will take revenge upon you no matter what. What is it? They're like the Terminator. They will not stop. Can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. Anyway, measure up this bad boy.
There's a TikTok account called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like Texas Bee Works or something like that. And this lady just goes to places where bees have built huge hives, and she like takes the hive out and moves it to a bee farm. And she just scoops them up with her hand. And she always explains, like, I've come to like learn bee behavior enough to know when they're not aggressive. But why are bees not aggressive? And she's not even like using smoke, which is like what beekeepers use to like subdue bees. But like she's taking the honeycombs out and putting them in boxes, and she's like scooping the bees up until she finds the queen, who she puts in this little clip to keep her safe, and then puts it in like, what could she do worse than that to make the bees go crazy?
Maybe she sprayed herself with a bee pheromone that causes them to not be as aggressive as they otherwise would be. Or maybe they're stinging her frantically and she's just made of steel.
No, I think you end up getting, like, you can't just stand and get stung by all the bees.
I was reading a Nat Geo article a long time ago about these, I think they're Nepalese, and they go collect honey from hanging beehives, and they get stung a lot, but they are pretty used to it, I guess. So they don't freak out. They're just there doing their job and getting stung, and it's not really, like, you can't really tell that they're getting stung. So maybe you can just become the ultimate awesome person and not care, shrug it off. Rex Kwon Do.
I think she's become one with the bees.
Maybe she is a bee.
Maybe she's a bee.
Have you considered that? Maybe
that's what that show, Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, is about. It's about a bee living among people.
Maybe she's the bee and Aquila in the bee.
Yeah, probably.
It's just Aquila and this one lady, or quote unquote lady, who takes care of bees. But then at the end, she pulls a
Scooby-Doo,
a Vincent D'Onofrio at the end of Men in Black 2. Turns out she's this giant bee. So Aquila and the Bee starts out. It's a very heartwarming movie about.
And she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna learn some words to spell." And then the lady who's her tutor says, "Sugar water,
like this. I need a snack." That was one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in a PG-13 movie. It was definitely that scene in Men in Black, but
I just realized that was Vincent D'Onofrio, the Kingpin himself. Anyway, that was a lot of ado, but without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. Those were two different
there's so much going
vocalizations from the same thing.
There was one that sounded like 7 people with kazoos, and then
7 people with kazoos or penguins,
and then someone dropping a marble on a desk.
Those were both animal sounds.
Is this
from the same animal?
Is this an album from what was the guy who uses like carcass sounds for his music?
Oh, Cosmo Sheldrake.
Is this a Cosmo Sheldrake album?
Well, his carcass sounds sound like music. He doesn't make music that sounds like carcass sounds. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
He makes carcass sounds that sound like music.
Good distinction. Thanks for clarifying that.
Is that A common eland? Is it B, a Texas longhorn? Is it C, a white-tailed buck? Or is it D, a Siberian musk deer?
D, Siberian musk deer.
Final answer?
Yeah.
That's incorrect. The correct answer was a white-tailed buck. It's a regular white-tailed deer.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't a cow, so it wasn't a longhorn. And then I forgot what the third thing was, so.
That first sound was so weird. I should have gone like broader. Is that a penguin? That could have been a penguin.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
It could have been a bird.
It was a deer. So let's talk about their height at the shoulder.
At the withers.
They're 61 to 81 centimeters or 24 to 32 inches. How many Saiga antelopes go into the flagpole in National Flag Square in Baku, Azerbaijan? Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, John wrote a book. It's called Azer. So it's Azerbaijan.
Or John released a fragrance.
Oh, yes. That's better. That's better. I'm actually
Azerbaijan.
The Nat Geo article I used for this episode has Sauvage by Johnny Depp on, like the ad is staring me in the face, and Johnny
Sauvage by John.
He's just wearing what looks like a poncho and looking off into the distance. I don't know why this is the marketing
You're
strategy.
You're getting retargeted.
I don't know why I'm seeing it, and I don't know why people who use cologne and stuff, like why this does it for them, but I guess it does.
Because you can't sell a cologne with visual representation unless you sell the lifestyle.
Well, they've got all kinds of other, like, hey, this smells really good. We asked like a bunch of people, hey, do you think this smells good? And they said it smelled good. So you should get it because you want to smell good. So just do the same thing. Do an Old Spice thing. You can go all kinds of different directions with cologne, but instead it's
you have to sell the luxury.
Instead it's here's Jared Leto and some random person with an ostrich running through a vintage grocery store wearing weird clothes.
Because I want to be running in a grocery store
with an
ostrich in my life. I want my lifestyle to reflect that. So I'm going to smell like Jared Leto in a grocery store.
If I'm ever watching a commercial and within 15 seconds I have no idea what's going on, it's definitely cologne or perfume or something. Anyway. What was in Azerbaijan?
Here's a hint. The pole.
What was it?
How many of these antelopes go into the flagpole? The national. in National Flag Square in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Okay, National Flag Square pole.
So here's a hint. The pole once held the record for the longest flagpole, but it was surpassed by poles in Tajikistan and Saudi Arabia. Why is the Eurasian steppe so hotly pursuing the flagpole thing?
It's a point of pride, it seems. Also, longest? That's a weird way to describe a flagpole.
Tallest.
Don't they go up?
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all the same thing, but it's just odd. And the world's tallest? Or the tallest in the... Yeah, the world's tallest, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some really tall ones here in the States, so it must be... I mean, you could hang a flag on top of the Wiz Khalifa. Whatever that tall building
Burj
is.
Khalifa?
The Burj Khalifa. And call that the tallest flagpole.
No, a flagpole I think is just a pole.
All right. I'm going to say 100 feet. And so I'm going to say 37.5.
Antelopes, final answer?
Yes, 37.5 antelopes stacked end to end. Nose to
Shoulder.
rump.
No.
Oh, no, wait.
wrong.
This is their height. Sorry. Standing on top of each other.
Yeah, so it's wrong. It's 199.3 antelopes.
Oh, boy.
The flagpole was 162 meters or 531.4 feet. It's like thick as a tree trunk at the bottom.
Yeah, I figured that. Just, I guess 100 feet sounded like a lot to me, but what was I thinking? I was so foolish and young back then.
You can see that at the local 100-foot tall one. You can see at the local car dealership.
That's not 10 stories tall.
Sure it is. It's probably like 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. Let's talk weight. There are 26 to 69 kilograms or 57 to 152 pounds. How many Saiga antelopes go into the combined weight of horses in the largest horse rider parade in the world, assuming they were all the average weight of Mongol horses?
This is the worst.
Here's a hint. A Mongol horse is a small but stocky breed of horse that is said to be unchanged since the time of Genghis Khan. The parade took place in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. I'm sure that's wrong. And the oldest rider was 90, and the youngest was just under 3 years old.
That seems irresponsible.
I will tell you
On
that
both
these
ends.
these are like ponies. They're not Clydesdales. They're small horses.
Yeah, but like a full-grown human can ride them without breaking their backs. So
Yeah, so they're not like tiny little like miniature ponies. They're like the motorcycle of horses.
I'm going to assume that there were 10,000 horses and that they're 700 pounds each.
Okay.
Which means we're dealing with 7 million pounds divided by 152. Gets us 46,000 pounds. Or 46,000 Saiga antelopes. 46,000 Bob Saigas.
Final answer?
Yeah, final answer.
The correct answer is 40,254 antelopes.
I was close.
The horses are around 550 pounds on average, and there were 11,125 of them, making the combined weight 6.1 million.
Wow! I can't believe how close I was. You said there were 11,000 horses. I said there were 10,000 horses. You said there were 500 pounds. I said there were 700 pounds.
Yeah, you shaved a little bit off the total number, but you beefed them up, so it worked out.
I mean, it didn't work out perfectly, but wow, woo! Take that. I know more about Mongolian horse parades than I thought.
So yeah, we're at like 33 minutes, and I have to leave in like 8 minutes.
Okay, let's do it.
Here are some of the fastest facts you've ever heard. The Saiga antelope lives on the Eurasian steppe, home of the largest flagpoles in the world, except for the largest one is now in Saudi Arabia. But they used to have a larger range spanning all the way across the Bering Strait to Alaska and Canada. They eat grass and shrubs, Their diet is so versatile that they can eat some plants that are poisonous to other animals. Males fight for mates, and victorious bucks can control groups of up to 50 females. The females exclusively mate with the male that controls their group. And they often give birth to 2 fawns at a time. But they're tasty little morsels on the Eurasian plains, so it's good to have 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like other bovids, antelope newborns are able to walk and run shortly after they're born. This gives them an edge against the Eurasian predators that would love to make a meal out of them, including foxes, wolves, dogs, and eagles, which is why you need that like brown counter shading.
Yes. Or at least being brown at all would be great.
The antelopes are able to live in plains that reach very high and very low temperatures. It can be really cold up in like South Russia, and it can be really hot in some desert regions that they live in. So they have anatomical protections against the elements, including fur that is seasonal and seems to be thicker than like your typical like Thompson's gazelle. So they're critically endangered, and it sounds like the story of their endangerment is very similar to the bison in North America. They were overhunted for their meat and their horns.
I got it in the major fact.
Well, take it away. That's all I got.
All right. It's time for the major fact, which I'm calling the nose. Nose, no bounds, I guess. Because they live under the blazing sun of the spicy stands. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and also Russia. Overheating is a serious issue for any mammals, including these guys. So while they're not completely 100% sure, and when I say they, I mean researchers, they're not completely sure why the Saiga has just the oddest looking half an elephant's trunk for a nose. It does seem like their primary purpose is to help cool the Saiga's face, because similar to an elephant's trunk and ears, there are a lot of blood vessels that are very close to the surface of the skin. And so as air flows over it, the blood cools, thus cooling the animal. So that's the prevailing theory, and also its enlarged shape and downward direction, they believe, help to filter out dust that's kicked up by the herd. So it's nice not to have to breathe that stuff in, and these noses seem specialized to prevent dust from getting into their windpipes. However, it turns out having this downward nose has a serious downside. The Saiga has recently plummeted in numbers over the last few years. Over the last several decades, but specifically over the last few years. And while many point to hunting, and rightly so, since Saiga horn is used in a lot of superstitious remedies, and their meat and fur are widely traded. For the 30 years between 1955 and 1985, hunters killed over 5 million of them. So definitely hunting has something to do with it. But the fatal blow, or presumably fatal blow, since they're still around, but not very many of them, about 100,000 are left, the fatal blow was struck back in the spring of 2015, when in just one season, a massive epidemic wiped out a full half of their remaining population. So, yeah, you'd think it would take years, but nope, just a few months. And they have pictures, and there's accounts of just the hillsides would be dotted with these carcasses. And after a long period of gobsmackedness, researchers found a special bacteria that grew in the blood vessels of the Saiga's noses. As we mentioned, how their noses help them cool their blood. And that bacteria is called Pasteurella multocida. And the prevalence of this bacteria as it grows causes blood poisoning, which is fatal and very contagious. And basically it had a 100% herd mortality rate. If one member of the herd got it, the entire herd would die within a few weeks. And that's why you would just see them drop on the hillsides. So for this is why they used to live as far as you mentioned, Canada, and they live in the UK and in a lot of places north of the equator. But now they just live in these very isolated locations, and it's not like the disease has been eradicated. This bacteria is still there. So there's just a lot of conservation efforts to keep these guys going, despite this very specific bacteria seeming to be bent on their elimination. And it's all due to these odd-looking snuffleupagus noses that they have, and the bacteria, I guess, and hunting. So it's not there's a lot of factors. But yeah, that's my major fact. That's all I got.
Interessante. Very, like, that's the worst ever virus for that's the worst case scenario. Extremely contagious and very deadly.
Yeah, 100% mortality rate. That's crazy. So the only way to not die from it is to be in a herd that doesn't get it at all. So
yeah,
that's and I don't even know how you would prevent it, because this Net Geo article I was reading said that it's sometimes present in birth. So it's not like you can just keep a herd away from, I don't know, like water or grass or even other herds that might have it. They might just be born with it, and then it grows out of control, and then so you have to identify carriers immediately and then remove them from the herd. So yeah, there's only about 100,000 left, and conservationists are trying to find ways to preserve this species. They're the only member of their genus, the genus Saiga. So that would be the end of that. So, and that's all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I got.
On that sad note, sad Saigas. So keep your horns sharp, your eyes sharper, and when in doubt, Master Mariadoc, always follow your nose, like the Saiga antelope here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, thanks for listening to the episode. Just a few quick things. As always, reviews and social media engagement are greatly appreciated, but recommending the podcast to friends is the best way to help us grow. If you'd like some LDT flavored merch, check out teespring.com/stores/taxonomyteas. That's it. Thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Nitty gritty babenclature.
No, that doesn't sound good at all.